You're listening to the Cooking from Scratch podcast. In this episode of the podcast, I chat with farmer Sasha Kanno, who founded and runs a half-acre urban farm in Long Beach, California. With a background in floral design and event and film production, farmer Sash combined her skills, experience, and passion to start Farm Lot 59 in 2010. Now, 14 years later, with a busy nonprofit farm to run, she shares with us how she keeps her meals easy and full of incredible farm-fresh ingredients. Whether you're an experienced grower or an avid cook looking to incorporate more seasonal ingredients into your cooking, this episode will leave you full of fresh ideas for ways to make farm-to-table eating easier and more convenient. Hi, I'm Aaliyah Iden, and with over 15 years of cooking in professional kitchens and at home for my family, this is the first non-cooking cooking podcast that shares how to make cooking easier so you can feel inspired and motivated to cook in the midst of your busy life. We go behind the scenes and tap into the stories and inspirations of chefs, farmers, and others working with food to reveal what they're up to in their kitchen right now and what their favorite at-home dish is to cook from scratch. This is the Cooking from Scratch podcast. So I'm here with Sasha Kanno on Farm Lot 59. And today I'm going to ask her all about the things about cooking from scratch. I'm really excited to have her. Sasha and I met, a long time ago, 12 years ago, as old as your kid is, 14 years ago.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes, exactly.
14 years ago,
yes.
We were introduced by a mutual friend who said, you guys are into food and garden and farm stuff. You should meet. And we did. And we've been friends ever since. And I'm going to tell a story about you.
Okay.
This is one of my most impressive stories about you that I always tell. When you were starting the Farm Lot 59, it was a brown field in the middle of Long Beach / Signal Hill where we live. And she took me to this field and she was like, I'm going to build a farm here. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, this lady is crazy. Like, how does that even work? And 10 plus years later, here she is, having had this Farm Lot 59 for over 10 years. So I am forever in awe of her. So I'm so glad to have her here on the show. So can you guys, I know there's so much out there about Farm Lot 59 and how it started and all that. Can you give us a 2-minute synopsis of kind of where you were and where you are now? I know we don't need to go so much into it, but I do want people to kind of have your background of where you're coming from with the farming.
Yeah. So I started Farm Lot 59 in 2010 out of basically an opportunity and a want to have my son and have a career here in Long Beach. So I lived in Wrigley and I was still commuting to LA, working in film and doing floral designs in LA. And there was no farm here. And you know, when you travel and you go to Portland and Seattle and all these places and New York, there's all these little pocket farms and it just wasn't a thing here. So I saw an opportunity to do it. And I had been volunteering, doing school gardening and community garden work in between my film gigs. So I had, local reputation already in agriculture and so I'd had a couple projects already and because I was from that production world, the production mindset was just where I was coming from. So community gardening is great, but it's a lot of people management and land management. And I just wanted to be able to produce as much as possible in a holistic way on a small acre. So I scouted property and the farm lot is the 4th or 5th location that I actually really scouted. And every vacant property has its own issues, whether it's landowner or the neighbor surrounding or whatever it was. So the area where we landed was abandoned and surrounded by abandonment and trash and illegal dumps, and there's a live pipeline that runs under the farm. So it's always going to be open space. So that was going for me because, you know, getting involved in land leases and agriculture, all that investment to have a short-term lease is frightening. And nothing is secure and nothing is forever, but it seemed like a really good fit over there. So I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos and
I
not
love
from
it.
agriculture. I mean, we had a garden
I was
and
just going to
fruit
say that was
trees.
my next question is like,
Yeah.
what brought you to agriculture? Did you grow up on a farm? Was there a
No.
lot of that present in your childhood? Like, what brought you there?
Yeah, my dad raised me and my brother in a small town in St. Augustine, Florida. And we had fruit trees and persimmon and pear and loquat. And we always had a small garden, but nothing like we have here now, not even my home garden with the raised beds. Like it was pretty rustic, but we always had tomato plants and roses and pansies and things. And my dad cooked dinner every night. You know, we had a lot of yellow squash in the summer and a lot of tomatoes and a lot of beans. And he fished and we ate, you know, fresh flounder and bass and stuff from the Intercoastal Waterway. And my brother ended up taking the chef route and we worked in kitchens. I worked as a prep cook at a seafood restaurant when I was in high school and bus tables at the beach bar and was always just food around, you know, it was
Yeah, it
never a
sounds like it.
want. Yeah, it was
Right.
always um for my house was the hub. Like everyone liked to come over because there was always something to eat or something to make or some, yeah.
That sounds fun. I wish I'd
Yeah,
known you then too.
I know. My dad was a good time.
So he taught you how to cook, your dad, or was it just more absorption, like sitting there watching? Or do you have any memories of, oh, I learned how to make an egg first, or is there a
Um,
memory of what you learned how to make first, or what you learned?
yeah, and it's funny, the girlfriends that I'm still friends with will always remember eating these two things that we would make like after school. We would make like ham and cream cheese rolls, right? That was like a big thing. And then one of the first things I made was we didn't have Mexican food, like that wasn't a thing, but I would make these black bean burritos. And my one girlfriend still makes it. And it's like, it's not even a thing. It's like a can of black beans, some cream cheese, and like a picante salsa jar or whatever. But she's like, I still make your black bean burrito.
That sounds delicious. A food influencer from early ages.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. That's so funny. So it sounds like your background definitely informs what you do now in terms of your cooking and everything that you grow and all that. I mean,
Yeah, definitely a seasonal eater. And, you know, the farm has evolved over the decade plus we've been there. It definitely started out cut flowers in the beginning, but we were kind of ahead of the curve with the local flowers. It wasn't a big thing back then. And we had vegetables always too. So I kind of scaled back on flowers, increased vegetables, and wanted to be that direct to consumer. And you know, not having a farming background and farming on this small scale was challenging because I didn't have the knowledge. And back then there wasn't a lot of, now you know, market farming is a thing and you can buy all these small scale tools, but it wasn't a thing. So it was a lot of shoveling and pitchforks and running hoses and just trying to kind of figure it all out. And growing year round here also is super tiresome because you never really get a break. I was over there earlier today and it's really hot, you know, and it's relentless, and just being gone for a couple days over the weekend, like everything just needs to get harvested and processed and refrigerated, and it's just the abundance is really starting to come in this summer.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it seems like with all that abundance, it seems like fast, delicious meals would be something that you're always looking for or wanting. I mean, you obviously don't compromise on good food, but then the farming is it's busy. There's so much to do, right? Always, continually. So how do you balance that? Oh my God, I'm so busy, but I eat farm fresh food, because we both know there's so much prep, or not so much, I'll say, but more prep involved in eating fresh food than there is just opening a box of whatever and just throwing something together. Like, how do you kind of balance that? Are you getting inspiration from the farm? What are you doing when you need a really quick meal?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is to have like a harvest day. So instead of,
Mhm.
I mean, I did leave there with the first almost ripe tomato because I couldn't help myself, but we harvest on Wednesdays. So I'll take my share of the harvest and then come home and process it, wash it, clean it, prep it, put it in the fridge ready to go. So I've got like stir fry easy, and I have a rice cooker, so we'll do a lot of rice cooker meals. And it's grill season, but it is a lot of work. It's the prep, right? And then you don't want to waste it because you're like, okay, well, I started those tomato seeds in January. Like, you're going to eat every single piece of that tomato. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of the connection when you are a grower or are a gardener, is you know how much work went into it. You don't want to waste any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. I love the rice cooker meals. What are your rice cooker meals?
Yeah, so all that time I spent in Hawaii, you always have a rice cooker going, but I don't eat a ton of just white rice, and my family isn't that big on brown rice. So we do like dirty rice, or I'll put Spanish rice in there, or jasmine rice, and some tomato paste and fresh tomatoes, and brown some meat and put it all in the rice cooker, and then it's ready. And that with a little bit of sour cream, or saute your bell peppers and throw them in the rice cooker with the rice. And I guess it's like a hot pot, which I don't have,
Right, right.
but it's like the OG.
Yeah, no, totally. I love that.
Yeah.
That's one appliance that I haven't really gotten much into because my background comes from the Middle Eastern background. Like, you have to know how to make a pot of rice on the stove, right? So
Yeah.
two different cultures, right? More of the Japanese Hawaiian influence and then the Middle Eastern influence. So I do the same thing. This is really funny, but I do it in a pot on the stove. And sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should get into an appliance. But then I'm like, well, what I do works. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
I
have to
mean,
do something else just to do it. Like,
right. No,
it's
well,
fine.
your skill set is
Right.
more, so the rice cooker, it's not like the crock pot, like it's not all day, it's
Right.
like half hour, 45 minutes or something. And then people can just come and take a scoop when they're ready, or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
That sounds delicious. I love it. Okay. So, big question. What's
Yeah.
in your freezer right now? What do
Oh
you have
gosh.
on hand?
In the freezer, there's always shrimp. There's always a bag of shrimp. And I vary through like shell on or tail on, or peeled or whatever. It's kind of what's on sale, but it's
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
the mood. Like, peel and eat is like a summer thing, I think. I
Yeah.
don't know. There's always fish. There's always fish, hopefully from someone I know who came back from fishing, or, that kind of stuff, because you normally get a ton of it when somebody catches a fish. There's a lot of fish going around. Um, and a couple years ago, I quit canning. I remember you and I used to make
Yeah.
like ketchup and
Back in the day.
sauce and Millen, all that stuff. And
Yes.
I just freeze it now. It's way easier. So working through all my summer veg from last year, I do like the ratatouille kind of situation. So
Right.
there's a lot of eggplant, tomato, pepper, squash situations happening in there.
Right. So you're cubing the tomato for people who are listening that don't do this or aren't familiar with this. You are dicing the tomato, putting it on sheet trays, and then freezing it. And then once it's
Yep.
frozen, you put it in a bag. And you do the same with the squash
Yep.
and the same with the eggplant.
Yep.
Same with the peppers, it sounds like.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a whole day, right? Or
Yeah.
afternoon of processing. You just kind of keep it. And it's not a long freeze. It doesn't take very
Yeah.
long. So you just kind of rotate your sheet pans through. Or I'll make a big batch of something on the stove and then portion it out. And then I'll throw those little baggies then in the rice cooker. Because it'll just add the liquid and just cook down in like a can of beans or something like that too. And it's a good little meal.
Right. So you're either prepping the ingredients or making it and then making freezer ready to eat meals.
Yeah.
Two different ways to save time.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. What I love of this, I interviewed someone yesterday who she's a chef trained background. And I think one of the keys that I'm noticing, she says, I'm really particular about all my prep lists and everything. And even at home, she's saying that this is what she does. And I think that's one of the most useful things for me that's come out of working in a professional cooking world. What makes like home cooking so much easier is, like you said, you process one day a week, you harvest and you process.
Yeah.
And this morning, I completely can relate to that. I went out to my apple tree and I'm like, I got to get these apples off this tree. They're the Anna apples. They're starting to come in. I want to harvest them when it's cool in the morning. Otherwise, I harvest them when it's hot. They're all kind of mushy. And so I'm like, God, this feels really overwhelming to have all this stuff coming in right now. So I love your idea of like one day a week. I'm like, okay, great. Then I just harvested my apples and I don't have to worry about it unless they're falling off the tree or something, but wait another bit of time and then make it just a one day a week thing. So I'm not always feeling like, oh, there's so much to do. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. It's more of an organizational thing than it is anything else, really.
Yeah. I mean, when stuff is ready, it's ready, but it also kind of takes the burden off it. Like if you're a Sunday prepper, then go out there Sunday, harvest all your lettuce, harvest all your greens, and then if you wash it and dry it, spin it, put it in a Tupperware, then you're gonna eat salad all week. But if you're like, I have lettuce outside, but it's easier to go to Trader Joe's and get a pre-made salad, like you're kind of missing the point of all the lettuce that's probably in your front yard.
Right. Or go to the farmer's market. If your farmer's market day is Sunday, then make it a point to prep all that stuff, like you said, so you'll eat it for the week. Definitely.
Yeah, if you wash it and prep it before it goes in the fridge, then you're more likely to use it, I think.
Yeah. So are you following recipes or are you just putting stuff together? Or do you kind of do both?
Well, I do get in a rut like everybody else. So I love your recipes because I'm like, oh, turmeric, lime, chicken. I wouldn't think to do that, but I for sure have turmeric. I have everything. That's a big part of the prep too, is having all your stuff. And that book you gave me, it's got like all the staples basically to have and you don't have to have everything all the time, like every single flour, but when you run through one flour, maybe then use a different one or use something like the mochiko, the rice flour, or then all purpose, like it's all fine. But it's way easier to put something together if you already have breadcrumbs and you already have all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah, where do you think that confidence comes from to be able to just throw stuff together like that? I think that's what I run into a lot of people who they just want recipes. And I'm like, no, let's learn how to cook. Yeah. Let's learn how to understand, like you just said, you can use this kind of flour instead or this kind of flour. But I think people don't feel confident and they get kind of stuck. And I get it. Like if you're in the moment, you don't want to add something and ruin dinner. But at the same time, I also feel like that if we get super stuck to recipes or not connected, but can only cook from recipes, then when we don't have an ingredient, then what do? We don't feel like we can solve the problem at hand, or we just order takeout, or, what is it? And that's what I'm always looking at, is how can we like learn how to cook and understand the ingredients. For me, the confidence comes from experience and just being willing to do it. I don't know. Do you think it's experience or?
Yeah, I mean, trial, right? I think a lot of it comes from consuming, like traveling and eating around. Like you just need an acid. It could be a lime, a lemon, a calamansi, whatever. It doesn't matter. One thing I used to do was cook through a book. So if you're like, I cook through a bunch of Andy Richter stuff. So you go to the Thai market or the Asian market and you buy everything and you cook through a whole book, then you're like, great, now I know how to make Thai food. Like, I'm no Thai chef, but you get the main components. You're like, oyster sauce is salty and thick, and then the black soy is very different than aloha shoyu. And if cooking with different cultures using the right ingredients, I think helps a lot too. Not all soy sauce is interchangeable between culture, but just being open-minded too, and not being scared to fail. I mean, I've burned pot roast. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
It happens. It might be a financial loss when you buy the happy
Right.
grass fed, whatever, but you
Right.
learn how to fix it or whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So what, if you're in the mood for a comforting meal, this is probably seasonal. I know it is with me. If you're in the mood for a comforting meal, what is it that you make?
Shrimp and grits every
Shrimp and
time.
grits. Oh, that's one that is so not in my repertoire.
Yeah,
I
shrimp and
love that.
grits
It's the
every
southern
time.
part.
And then you make like a different like remoulade with it, right? So that's the seasonal part. Like if I've got a package of bacon, I'll render that down, or it could be sautéed onions and peppers and mushrooms or whatever, any kind of like gravy, not
Right.
like a brown gravy, but any kind of or fresh tomatoes or greens, you just pour that on top. And
Yeah,
then
that's great. I'm coming
every
over
yeah.
next time you make that. I'll come on
It's
right
the
over.
perfect Sunday morning because it's ready in like
Yeah,
10
no
minutes
kidding.
too.
Yeah, grits are one of those things that is not really on my radar. I think that's the southern influence
Yeah, grits,
completely,
corn
right?
cakes, hoe cakes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, a lot of corn.
Yeah. So what, I think you probably already answered this, but I'm wondering, when you're feeling really tired and unmotivated, how do you get motivated to cook? Are you going to a cookbook? Are you just opening the freezer? Are you going into the Soul of Cooking Facebook group that I'm
Yes.
hosting?
Yes. I
Yes.
am happy to be there for motivation for sure. Yeah, I'm not that good with meal planning necessarily. Um, like kind of like you, right? I start with a protein. Like we just came back from a little vacation getaway and I'm feeling very stuffed from that trip and
Right.
little overindulgent. So I'm like, okay, grilled chicken and salad, right? No starches. I have a overabundance of zucchini, like probably everybody right around now.
Yes.
Um, Getting excited about that, grilling it, making some kebabs, something like that. But it's not school right now, so it's a little easier. I don't have to be so crunched to make sure dinner is happening at 6 or 6:30 or before we go to sports, or if I prep it so he can eat when we come back or whatever. So summer kind of takes a lot of that pressure off. But I'm not a big like casserole person. I don't turn the oven on that much, even in the winter. And I know there's like the sheet pan dinners, and I don't really get into that much. I try and not use every pot in the
Right.
kitchen.
Right. That's the other criterion, right? It's like, how can
Yeah.
I use one pot and one bowl? That's
Yeah.
fine.
Maybe two
Right.
pots.
Yeah.
You got your starch and your veg or something. But I have a big lodge grill pan for in the house.
Right.
I have a nice big skillet with a lid, and I do a lot of like artichoke and olive and lemon and that kind of stuff. It's
That
such
sounds
a
delicious. What are you
it's
doing
an
with the artichoke? Are you taking off leaves, just the hearts?
I
what are you
mean,
doing
I
with
get
it?
like the giant jars of the marinated stuff and just throw them in, and then you can use that oil too to kind of help it along. Brown
Yeah.
some chicken, throw in some orzo, maybe a little feta, easy stuff like that.
Yeah. So you think having a command, it sounds like a command on different types of flavors. So that seems kind of like French or French American or Italian. And earlier you were talking about Thai food. So it seems like if you're having a handle on these different types of like flavor pantries, that's really going to help out when you are trying to cook something fast, right? You're like, well, what goes with artichoke? What did you
Right.
just say, right? The few
Yeah.
different things that you throw on the pound of artichoke. Or how do I make this Thai dish? Am I going to put coconut milk in it? Am I going to put a curry paste? What am I going to put in there? So these are the things I'm always trying to share with people. Understand a flavor pantry. And then when you have just your protein or whatever, then you can just, it's very simplified, but you can just kind of
Yeah.
throw things together from a flavor perspective and not be concerned that something might not go with something.
Yeah, no, you don't have to overthink it. And
Right.
rarely do I measure anything. I mean, I measure the rice and the water ratio, but not a lot of measuring happens. Even with all the chimichurris and stuff, it's by taste. Like, oh, is it too garlicky, too acidic, needs more oil? Um, so the more you experiment and try, and if you're trying to mirror something you had, like recreate a dish you had at this one time in your life, it's probably going to be a little
Yeah.
harder
Yes,
because you're
definitely.
not there. You're not in Russian River eating
Right.
Hog Island oysters with fresh pasta or whatever.
Right.
So be lenient and recreate it, but with what you've
Be
got.
inspired by it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
inspired.
Yeah. I love your chimichurris. You make Elizabeth, my daughter, still says, Sasha's herb, whatever those herb things are, she makes, they're the best. And you're
Yeah.
taking all your herbs, putting them in like a bullet or whatever, ninja, and
Yeah.
like, and that's
Sometimes it's
it.
heavy on the parsley. Sometimes it's mint and basil and thyme. Yeah. So the front, and I love having an herb garden at home. I think if you're going to have anything at home, have your herbs. Because if you use fresh herbs in your cooking, it elevates everything. And if you don't know how to incorporate it into your dressings, but a little after, or fresh parsley or something, and it's not something you're going to buy from the market, and you're not going to go buy your little Tupperware of sage and use the 4 leaves in tonight's cooking, and then
Right.
so I would suggest, if you're going to do anything, and they grow really well in containers, they need a little bit of shade. And I leave my herbs on the counter, and then you just have dried herbs after a while. If you are harvesting for what you need today or tomorrow, sauces or whatever, and then you chop it all up, you didn't use everything, you leave it in a wide mouth bowl on the counter, and every time you walk by, you just give it a little
Right. Shake.
scoot. Yeah, give a little shake. And then you have dried parsley, or you have dried thyme or rosemary or whatever it is. But yeah, I love all those churries. And sometimes I put mustard seeds in it. Sometimes it's shallot or leeks or red onion, whatever we have, growing out front.
I love it. The lazy person's guide to trying herbs.
Yeah.
Put them on your counter. Let them sit there.
The
All you
whole
need to
jar, the jar in the refrigerator thing is just not practical, and
I
somebody
agree.
knocks it over, and then you've got
It gets buried.
Yeah, the scallions it works, but honestly, you just cut them and stick it back in the garden. Or now I don't even take them out; I just cut flush at the soil line, and then it just grows back. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of herbs this summer. I love it. You inspire me with those green sauces, and now I have a little spot where I can do my herb garden, and I'm staring at cilantro on my counter right now.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode from start to finish. If you have any questions or comments about what was shared, please click on the link at the top of the show notes to send us a note. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this episode with your friends.